Hi guys, Spartan765 here. Today I'm doing a gunsmithing video to show you guys how to fix the correct way to fix the stock wobble on an SKS. This particular SKS is a Chinese Sino-Soviet from early 1957. The rifle itself is unfired from what I can tell. The bolt face is very clean, all numbers match, barrel's immaculate. The stock was a little beat up from some crate wear. It had that typical shellac finish on it that flakes off, so I just stripped that off and just did some teak oil over it. But anyway, so now I'm going to go over how to fix the stock wobble, and that is this here. Now obviously it's going to wobble regardless because I have the trigger group out. This is all disassembled, so it's easier for me to do the video and hold the camera. But assume your trigger group's in and everything and your stock is doing this. Or your trigger group's in and the stock is moving back and forth. Now, both of those are going to have negative effects on accuracy and they're just irritating. I'm going to tell you how to fix that today, and all you're going to need is something like this. This is a brass stripper clip from an 8mm Mauser brass stripper clip. This will work, or any other type of sheet metal that, you know, is not super thin but not super thick, because what you can do is you cut it out the right shape, which is roughly a square like this here that you see cut out here. And then what you got to do is if it's too thick, you take a hammer on an anvil and you just flatten it out a little bit. You might have to trim it down a little bit. If it's still too thin, then you got to cut another one of these out and double overlap them. And that's, I'll show you the faces you put that on. I've seen other guys that have done this. They've actually shimmed in here, which is stupid. That's absolutely stupid. You don't want to do that. That is not that's not fixing the problem. That's just making it worse on the rifle. Because the impact point where the rifle seats is right here on this cross bolt. Well, that's not the recoil impact point, but that's the impact point where the main impact point of the receiver and the stock is right there. And that's where you want to shim. I've seen other guys that have also shimmed back here on the tang, this tang that sticks down. You don't shim on the tang. You don't, because that should be flat contact with the wood. Alright, now when I pull this out here, I'm going to show you here where I shimmed. Now mine didn't have any forward movement. Mine just had up and down movement. Now as you can see here on the cross bolt, I have the shim in there right now, and I made it, you know, as far as the length goes, I made it a little bit wider. That way I could kind of tap it into the wood forward. So like tap it, I can't really do this, I'm trying to do this with one hand, but I tapped it into the wood here. Let's see if I can set this stupid thing down here. Give me a second, sorry for this. Just gonna set that there. Put this here. So, find the, okay. So I just essentially took, well, I had a punch obviously, but I just tapped that forward so it's seated into the wood a little bit right up there. So that way I could sit here and I could shake this and this isn't going to fall out. That way I don't have to worry about you know, having another piece to look after and put back in if I field strip the gun. Now this is what I did here. This is for the up and down movement. If you have the side to, or the forward to backwards movement, you're going to want to just shim right here. See this other face I left black right down here? Right there? You're going to want to shim right there, because that impacts the up and down movement, which is the problem I was having with mine, impacts on this face right here. The forward to backwards would impact on this face right here, on the actual receiver. So to put this bluntly, because the video is kind of, I don't have anything to point with, the up and down impacts on this flat surface in the barrel. The rearward surface, the frontward rearward movement impacts right here in the front of the receiver. And putting a shim in either this spot, or in both if needed, will solve that problem. Now you don't want the shim to be disgustingly tight here. I mean, you don't want to be able to so you have to literally put your barrel in, and you don't want to have to just, you know, squeeze it together because it's so tight. Because then what you're doing is you're putting, sorry for the shitty camera work, then what you're doing is you're taking this front part here of the barrel and you're actually pulling upwards on the stock, which obviously if you're doing that, you're putting a strong rearward motion or rearward force pulling down in the barrel, and that inherently is going to screw your accuracy up. You want it just right so that the barrel will pop right into place, or that the receiver will pop right into place like that. And as you can see, when I drop this down where it's flush with the stock, it then becomes flush with the front. So this particular shim happened to be just the perfect thickness. I didn't have to alter it in any way. But you do not want it where it's right here and you really have to push to beat hell to overcome the stress or the spring tension on the stock here. Because you should not be pulling the stock up with the barrel, because then when you go to shoot, you're going to have inconsistent accuracy. Because as the barrel heats and cools, the barrel's going to warp up or down, and you don't want to have that. But anyway, that's how to fix the SKS stock wobble. For some reason, I couldn't find much info on there, so that's why I'm making this video, because there isn't a lot of videos on YouTube that I could find that address this problem properly. There are some videos that I've seen that address shimming the rear and then shimming up here with, out of all things, pop cans, cutting a pop can up, which is, no, do not do that. Do it this way. This is the best way to do it. That way you're shimming right where the locking point in the stock is, not, you know, half-assedly shimming up here or sticking a shim back here. That's not what you want to do. Anyway, comments, questions, send me a message, Spartan765.